Dan said on Saturday that he felt the defense had a better day than the offense was able to get some stops. Just curious, how do you feel the offense came out today and attacked and kind of took ownership of that?
I think our theme was after that was reset, refocus, and those guys did that. I thought we had a much better day today. The execution and detail and all the things that you're looking for were a lot higher.
Front left here, Brian.
What have you seen out of the depth behind Jamari Johnson this fall, and how have those guys performed in camp?
I think we've seen a lot of good things from all those guys. Coach Smith has done a really good job in that room, helping me out there. And I think that the tight end position kind of grows a little bit slower than others, just because aside from throwing the football, they do pretty much everything else. So there's a lot of skill and a lot of knowledge you got to acquire. And so all three of those kids have done a really, really good job. Really, not even three, but let's see, there's a bunch of them now, 5 or 6. You know what I mean? But they've done a really good job. I think it's a really good room that will continue to develop and get better.
On the left there.
I'm wondering how much the, added offseason time to do some installs has helped kind of get the offense to this point. And do you feel like essentially all that you want in is already in right now, or is there some progress from now till the game one?
I think that it's always a fine line and a balance of, we could do this. And really the question is, do we need to do it? There's always ideas. Like I have an idea board in the offensive staff room where guys are like, hey, dude, this play would be awesome, right? And you're like, okay, great. Like, when are we going to put that in? I don't know. And so I think you said the offseason, the added offseason stuff for us is great because you get to cover a lot more than just plays, but situations and how we handle them and what we're looking for from our guys. So, it's been great. I think we're in a great spot right now. Certainly our defense presents its own set of issues that we got to work through too, which has been fantastic for us. And Hamp's awesome to work with. Dan's obviously a stud. So it's great.
Back right, Brett.
First couple of weeks, obviously, guys are still kind of getting their feet wet, right? Getting used to adjustment, fall practice, all that stuff. Now that we're basically 2 weeks away from the start of the regular season, how are you seeing the offense kind of take that next step to where, they're obviously closer to game day readiness, and what are some of the leaps that they've taken just, beginning off this week?
I think that there's more than anything else, like you start to see guys like start to get comfortable in what they're being asked to do, right? And kind of going back to the first question, you start to see the fundamentals and details of, it's not just that they're going in the right way, right? They got great hand placement, they've got great footwork, right? There's great communication on, when the defense changes or blitzes or whatever it is, right? What communication has to go on. So, it's more than just lining up out there and saying, hey, I got a corner out, that's kind of what always happens at the beginning of fall camp or spring ball. So I think we've progressed past that and like, okay, we see this look, like, what do we want to do?
Back left, Matt.
How do you assess Evan and Gatlin, both guys, different reasons, but not playing football for over a year and just kind of getting that rust off, getting themselves ready for game ready, where you may be ready to put them in the game?
How do I assess it, or what is the assessment?
Yeah, what is the assessment?
Okay. I was like, how do I assess it? I was like, get out there and see what you got, I think it's been great. I do think that anytime that I've had 3 knee surgeries in my lifetime, I was talking about Evan. I certainly haven't taken a 2-year mission like Gatlin. But I think that anytime you go through, periods of time without playing, even if it's just for our guys coming off of summer break for a week, there's always going to be a little bit of rust, right? And both of those guys have had a great attitude and great intention on improving their game as fast as possible. So I've been really proud of both those kids.
All right, Zach.
Messiah is someone who's been popping up a little bit so far this fall camp. How can he separate himself in such a deep receiver room, and what has he done so far that has kind of made him stand out?
I think for anybody at any position, Messiah included, the separation factor is just simply what you do on the field, right? It's not, hey, we got to see you go do this or see you go do that, right? It's for a lot of people, it's, do the other 10 guys on the field trust you? You're going to be in there. You're going to make plays. And Messiah's come along. He's had a really great last week. And I think he's doing some really, really good things for us. So everybody. I tell everybody the answer to every single question that you'll ever have in football is play well. Coach, how do I get, drafted? It's play well. How do I get playing time? Play well. It's all the same. And so we've been using the term obsession, right? Are you obsessed with playing well and whatever that takes?
On the right, Bree.
You've worked with Coach Lanning since 2022. Having worked with a lot of coaches throughout your career, is there anyone that he reminds you of in the way that he leads or how he coaches?
It's a good question. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to work with a lot of great coaches in my life. Some that have made some very lasting impacts. I think as the head coach, it's very hard. You walk a very fine line of demanding, right, from not only the players and your staff, but also being approachable. And that's very hard. I think a very hard line for people to walk. And I think Dan does it almost effortlessly. And the same guy that will hold a staff meeting and hold all the staff, the coaches accountable, like this wasn't good enough at practice, we've got to be better, is the same guy that will crack a joke with you an hour later, right? And it's like, no, like we just understand this is what we got to do to go win, right? It's not personal. And so for that, I'm unbelievably appreciative. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells, but you do feel like that there's a very high standard for the way that he sees the organization and the expectations around here to win. So it's unique, in my opinion, very unique, and I'm very thankful for it. I think everybody's obviously a little bit different. Coach Meyer ran his program differently than Coach Lanning did, and obviously they've got different influences. Coach Herman ran his program differently, so they're all kind of unique in themselves. And I think that talking to Pete Carroll when I was at Rutgers, he came and I think you have to be uniquely yourself. If you try to be somebody else as a head coach, I don't think it's going to work. I think you have to be yourself, and I think that Dan does that very, very well. So I think it's a mark of obviously confidence in your abilities, right? And it's also it makes the day-to-day for everybody else in the building a lot easier to grow.
Front left, right.
Make of the sort of swagger that Evan Stewart brings. It's obviously a balance of confidence and focus when it comes to the receiver position. But how do you view that?
If Evan does not lack confidence at all, certainly to be, I don't know what his TikTok following is or whatever it is, but I'm sure it's quite a bit from what I've been told. I'm not a TikToker by any stretch. But I do think that, we listened to a Jocko Willink video today, and he was talking about whenever he goes into perform, right? He's like, I do get a little bit cocky because I want to believe in myself that I can go do that. And I feel like Evan walks around with that all the time. But, Evan's grown so much in the sense that his cockiness doesn't turn into arrogance at all. He has confidence in his ability to go do it, but he wants to be coached and he wants to get better and he wants to develop. He doesn't want to walk off the practice field and nobody said anything to him about how he can improve his performance. So he's a lot of fun to be around. He rarely has bad days. He's got a big smile on his face. He dances and he sang all the lyrics to Party in the USA or something like that last night, right? He's a stud. I love being around Evan.
Eric, second row left.
I guess a two-parter. Coming out of two scrimmages, are you able to assess better the freshmen and maybe their readiness to contribute right away? And then the second part is Brandon and Tredarian as running backs, and in that running back room, kind of where they stack up, and I guess where you think they fit in terms of that readiness I asked about.
Yeah, I think readiness in our line of work, right? We use the phrase "if you're good enough, you're old enough," right? And I think that a lot of kids, freshmen, coming into college football, obviously they go through these stages of where like I was really good, now all of a sudden everybody's really good, and that's kind of a bit of shock at times. And then there's obviously more on their plate from a scheme standpoint, right? So there you see these, undulations in the growth pattern here. And so I think that there's several of those guys that, in the past, like last year, Dier, right, is a great example of a freshman running back that last year was like, we're not sure exactly where he's at mentally, at the time, right? And I'm not using a running back as you referenced running backs. I'm just as a young freshman, and he's going to continue to grow. Like they're not polished products by game one, right? And as much as we'd like them to all the time be polished products by game one, very rarely do you get one of those. Even Josh Connerly, right, when he played for us, like he wasn't a polished product game one as freshman. He's a 3 and done, going to starting for the Commanders, right? Like he's fantastic players. So I think that there's a lot of those guys that are right there on the cusp, and they're pushing. And our program, I think, allows for that. You know, in terms of those two other kids that you mentioned, I think they're doing the same thing. They're pushing. They're both got their issues that they got to go fix and develop, right? But they're working on them, and Sam's doing an unbelievable job with those guys. So, yeah, I think we're all really excited about where those guys are at, and then continuing to push them to grow. And the two older running backs in that room, or three older running backs in that room. Well, I guess there's four. Wow, there's a lot of them. I think they've got a really good culture of pushing each other, and I don't know that I hear another position, at least on offense, coach each other. Maybe the offensive line coach each other the same way that those running backs do, right? Where they demand effort and strain and stuff like that. And so I think that's pushed those running backs, the young ones, along further than they probably would have been.
Here on the right, Olivia.
Another one about Evan Stewart. I would assume the role he had in 2024 isn't just something that you as coaching staff just hand him. From your perspective, what has he done to take the steps to kind of earn that spot back? And then how do you go about assessing that? How much do you use from the 2024 season to determine his role in this year's team?
So I don't think that anybody would have ever accused Evan of not being talented, right? And so I mean, we saw that, right? We saw that in 2024, and unfortunately, the 2025 season is what it was. But I think that when Evan was coming back in January, I remember talking to him, and I was like, "Hey, this is what's going to happen moving forward for you." And this is the stuff that you got to get better at. And let's look at this from just the year of 2026, and let's look at this as it pertains to your football career moving forward after that. Here's all the areas you got to grow and improve. And I do think that sometimes for us as humans, it takes a bit of a shock to the system to change some habits and things like that. And Evan did. Evan changed almost all of his work habits, and he's had an unbelievable camp for us. He's an extremely hard worker. But he hasn't changed who he is, and I think that people like Dante make that okay for guys like him to yeah, you can still work really hard, right? And you can still be fun and laughing and smiling and stuff like that. Those are not mutually exclusive ideas. So he's worked his tail off. He's playing a number of different positions for us right now, more than he did for us in 2024. So I'm really excited about the season that he's going to have for us, and very proud of him for the way that he's worked. So we're pumped.
Two more, Brett, and then Zach.
The wide receiver group just as a whole, I mean, Evan Stewart down to the bottom, to Corey Moore, Hooks, etc. Just there's so much talent with it. And Coach Douglas was talking about how there may not be a need for a number one wide receiver as just one guy. They can all be number one wide receivers, game by game. Just how have you seen that group develop over fall camp? And do you echo that same sentiment that just the talents and the depth you guys have in that wide receiver room, that on any given day, any of them can be a wide receiver run for this team?
Yeah, I think that there's quite a bit, and Coach Douglas is, he's done a great job in there with those guys. And Ross coaches them hard too. They're not just pretty boys out there. They got to be tough and play tough. They got to block in the run game and do all the stuff necessary for us to be able to win games in a variety of fashions. But yeah, I do think we got guys out there, the guys that you mentioned for sure. I think any of them can go change a game, and we saw bits and pieces of that last year, right? Corey did it early in the year. You mentioned Corey, right? J-Mac did it several times for us, right? And Stewie did it for us, in 2024. So, and then you got some young guys coming on as well. So, and you got guys out there like Jamari, right? That can help you, and those kinds of things. So I think that they're in a great position. And yeah, I do think that any of them can go change the game. And to be honest with you, that's been our expectation of them. Like when you're out on the field, you're supposed to do this because you're good enough to do it. So we're going to hold you to that standard.
Last question, Zach, on the right.
At this point, I don't think that we'll talk to you till after the regular season and the bowl season. So It sounds weird, but how much fun has this fall camp been for you in the new position? I mean, what's been different from what you expected? What's been similar to what you expected? And kind of what's your excitement level going into this position into the regular season?
There's a quote from Jack Harbaugh that I say quite often, who's got it better than us? Nobody. And he was saying that when he was the head coach at Western Kentucky, sitting on probably not a great bench or outside of a great locker room or anything like that. And actually said that to the offense today. Who's got better than us, man? Like all the stuff that we have going around here, and we got the best head coach in the country, and man, you don't have anybody that when you get out on the practice field, you're like, man, I really don't want to talk to that guy. You love all of them, right? And they're a lot of fun to be around. So for me, this has been a dream come true type situation for me, and the chance to be in front of that room with the offense and in that leadership role has been a lot of work, right? But it's the labor of love that you wanted to sign up for, right? And we always want our lives to path linearly, and they almost never do, right? It's just not the way that God designed our lives. So it's been so much fun for me, and just to be around, I think, a great staff of people and a great group of kids, right? To come out and work every single day, like I'm blessed, man, and I couldn't be more thankful and more grateful for the situation that I'm in.